Good morning, guys. We are at the lake this morning. Uh, as you can see, we plan on doing some fishing, trying to work some of these shorelines where some of these bass are bedding. And there's quite a few big fish in this lake. This time last year, I caught a 10-pounder out of here. And there's no telling what you're going to catch. Wide variety of different fish, but today we're focusing on largemouth bass, working the shorelines, working some spawning bass and stuff. So you guys stay tuned and we will see what happens, and at the end of the video we'll sit down and kind of have a recap of everything and just talk about how the day went. So y'all stay tuned to the video, watch till the end, and we're sure to have a good time. See y'all in a bit. Got one here. Good little fish. Not a bad way to start today. I'll tell you the key, that one of the things I've learned about catching these fish in the spring is if you don't catch it in the first few casts, don't leave, because these bedding fish are very, very aggressive, and they'll get real protective of those beds, and sooner or later they'll hit it. They just can't handle it. But that's a good fish. Beautiful fish. A couple pounds, but we'll get back after it again and see if we can't get a few more of these guys. If we can get a mess of these today, it'll be a good day of fishing. So y'all guys stay tuned, and we'll be back shortly. I don't know if you can see it, but right down there is a bed, and there was a fish on it when I come up. So we're gonna make a few casts here and see if we can't get it to bite. Tough little spot to fish, but when you're doing this bank fishing, it's really more about stalking, always keeping your eyes peeled, because you never know, just right around the corner might be the bass you're looking for. I think she did a little spin. She probably went out and she'll be making her way back here in a minute. But we'll keep after it and keep seeing what we can do on these beds. Y'all guys hang tight. So guys, I am behind this tree, and right on the other side of that tree is a nice sized bass that I just missed a minute ago on a wacky rig. So I went back Texas rig, and I'm going to try to get him on this Texas rig. And I'm not sure if the video footage is going to be good. It's probably not going to be too good, but if we get him hooked, then we can get out behind this tree. But for then, let's just see what we can do. He's looking at it, but he may still be a little shell shocked from encountering the wacky rig a minute ago. But I'm pretty sure that he's bedding there, and if we can get a good cast, Alright, well, I'll get back with y'all in a few minutes. I'm going to work on this guy for a while and see what I can do. Nice girl. She couldn't handle it. Good sized fish. Wasn't able to get that one behind that tree a minute ago, but I'm going to kind of give her a break and go back after her in a little bit. But the biggest key to this whole type of fishing is stalking the fish. You know, I see it time and time again. I see people who bank fish. They'll find a spot. They say, "Oh, this is a good place to fish." And they'll run right down to the bank, and they'll throw a lure out in the water, make a big splash, and you know, whatever fish that were there are gone. So we'll talk about that a little bit later, but I'm gonna grab a picture of this little girl and then get back at it. So y'all keep watching. More fish, more tips to come. So what's going on, guys? We are back at the house. We spent a good part of the morning fishing, and we got a couple fish on video. We caught a couple other fish we didn't get on video. But one of the reasons why we left early is because the lake just got covered up with people. This lake that I went to this morning, it has paddle boats, it has canoes, and a lot of people on Saturdays and Sundays come up from out of town, and they just go up there, they flock to it. I knew this morning that it would probably be crowded, and sure enough, it was crowded. But either way, we did get a few fish, and once everybody got on the water and other fishermen came in, fish started getting a little bit spooked, and I just thought it was best to come back here and talk to you guys for a little while and try to get back at it in a couple days when most of these folks are headed back home. But like earlier in the video, I wanted to share a couple tips that I've learned from my own experience of fishing. I've been bank fishing nearly all my life, and most everybody who does fish learns from the bank. But a couple very important things that I've learned, and I see a lot of people do this, and I'm as guilty as the next person, especially when I was younger, I used to do this, is when you're bank fishing, one of the first things you do is you look for a place you can go fish. And then you have a tendency to just walk right down to the edge of the water and start casting your lures. Well, the one thing you need to think about when you do that is whatever fish that were there before you walked down, you just spooked them. And so my method of doing this now is I've really started stalking fish, and that's what I do most of the time. A lot of times I'll go to areas that I know I'm going to fish, and I'll just walk it before I actually fish it. Get a good idea where I see the fish at. I'll come back at a later time knowing where those fish are at, and I'll really sneak up and stalk up on those fish. And one thing I will not do is run down to the edge of the bank. As I'm approaching that particular area, if I'm able, I'll find a tree or anything, any kind of shrubs or anything like that I can get behind to actually camouflage myself, and I'll do some flipping and things of that nature. And today, the two good fish that we caught was done exactly that way. There was one fish that earlier in the video where I was talking about being behind the tree and whatnot, I actually hooked that fish 2 times, but because there was so much overgrowth at that particular spot, it was very hard for me to set the hook. So that's something you got to remember when you get into these tight spots, is make a plan. Hey, how am I going to set the hook when this bass gets this fish? Otherwise, you end up doing what happened to me today. But that fish was very aggressive, so I'm going to come back at him at another time. And one of the reasons I believe that I missed the fish was because I was using these wacky rig, weedless wacky rig hooks. And you know, they're smaller, and you just can't, sometimes you just can't get a good hook set like you can on a big 3/0. And so we're going to go back at him again with the 3/0, and we're going to Texas rig it, and we're going to get him. I just know he was very aggressive today. But Another thing you really want to take into consideration, and I see folks do this a lot, and again, I have to confess, I'm as guilty as the next person to doing this, and that's when you go fishing, do not wear bright colors. I see people come in, wear red shirts, you wear neon blue shirts, you wear yellow shirts, you wear things that are just really bright. And one thing you have to remember is if you see the fish, more than likely that fish sees you. You have a much, much less chance of being seen if you wear camouflage, which is what I do. And I have a lot of people tell me when I'm walking around and I run into folks, they say, "What are you doing, hunting?" I said, "Well, yeah, I'm hunting fish." Well, it's the same mindset. When you're deer hunting or anything else, you don't want the deer to see you. Well, you don't want the fish to see you either when you're on the bank. So remember that the next time you go fishing. And one last thing. When you're stalking these fish and you're going to the bank, try to be quiet as you can. And don't just plop your lures out in the water. I see folks do this. And again, I've been guilty of it too. Taking a big spinner bait, taking a big crankbait or some jig or something and throwing it out there and making a big splash. Because what you do is you scare those fish away and they may not come back. Sometimes they may come back. So I always try to go in with using some sort of plastic baits to begin with. Lizards, Cinco worms, Zoom worms, something like that. Sometimes I may put a small weight on it. Other times I may go totally weightless. And one of the key things I zoom in on is if I see any overhanging trees. A lot of times these fish, they love to get up under these trees and they'll just nose the bank. And if you can get yourself in a position where you can actually take your worm or whatever you're fishing with and plop it up under the tree, a lot of times they'll just hit on reaction, because quite often those fish are actually waiting for something to come off the bank or something come out of the tree. So if you can find yourself in a situation like that, you're going to catch some fish, but always remember, you're stalking these fish. Be careful what colors you wear. If you haven't got camouflage, wear grays, wear browns, anything that looks like a natural color. Don't go up and just sling your lures in the water. The big splash, contrary to popular belief, some people may not think it scares fish. I'm here to tell you, it really does scare the fish. So if you take those 3 or 4 things into account, I promise you, when you're bank fishing, you're going to increase your odds of catching fish greatly. Because I've been places before where I've caught fish, and I've had people come up to me and they say, "Well, you caught any today?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, yeah, I've caught a few." "Well, what were you doing? How are you doing it?" And sometimes I tell them, sometimes I don't tell them. But most of the time, the reason these folks don't catch fish is because they do the things that I was just describing. And that is plop right down on a nice clear place on the edge of the water and start throwing baits out there, making big splash, wearing bright colors. Now, if you're catching sunfish or things of that nature, you may get away with that. But these bass are very finicky fish, and they're very acceptable to things of that nature. So that's just a few things I thought I'd share with you today. And we'll get back later on in the week and do some more fishing. I'll make another video, share some more tips and everything. So if you're a new viewer to my videos, please like and subscribe to my channel, Bama'S Outdoors. Videos are getting better. Good weather outside. We're going to be catching a lot of fish. Probably going to catch some big fish too before the season's over with. So y'all guys keep watching. Like I said, we'll share some more tips and some more fishing trips. And God bless. And keep on fishing. And have a great